Okay, I would like to call to order the Clarkson Independence District Library Board of Trustee meeting for November 9th, 2020. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. With the roll call tonight, we will each specify where we are. Please call the roll.
Dan Gaffney.
I'm here in Independence Township, Michigan.
Thank you. Dan Green.
I'm here and I'm in Clarkston, Michigan.
Allison McFadden Kiesling.
I'm here. I'm in Independence Township, Michigan.
Okay. Nancy Moon.
I'm here in Clarkston, Michigan.
Marilyn Pomeroy.
Here in Independence Township, Michigan.
Okay. Ann Rose.
Here, I'm in Clarkston, Michigan.
Okay. Chris Schell.
Here, Clarkston, Michigan.
Okay. And Julie Meredith. I'm in Independence Township, Michigan. Thank you.
I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move. I'll second then.
Who made the motion for Nicole?
Yeah, sorry, I missed that, guys.
Well, I made it once, but I heard an echo, so.
Okay.
Right. So we will.
Just remember, who seconded it?
Well, I did because I thought somebody else.
I'll
made a
second
motion.
it.
Okay, thanks, Allison.
Thank you. I'm dying out here.
Just remember, raise your hand so I can see you a little easier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have the motion made by Jan and seconded by Allison to approve the agenda as presented. Are there any comments or questions? If not, please call the roll.
Dan Gaffney.
Here.
Dan
Aye.
Green.
Yes, I'm confused.
Yes,
Allison McFadden Kiesling.
Yes.
Nancy Moon.
Yes,
Marilyn Pomeroy.
Yes.
Ann Rose.
Yes,
And Chris Schell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion is passed. Now is our call to the public. We may not have any public with us tonight.
Laura's here.
Laura's here. She's muted, looks like.
Should unmute yourself. Yeah.
Laura needs to be unmuted.
There you go.
There we go.
All right, the Friends of the Library had their general membership meeting on October 22nd by Zoom. They re-elected the same officers, Carol McNally, president, Julie Sitzel as secretary. We currently do not have a president-elect or a treasurer. We approved $8,000 to fund the staff wish list for 2021. And we awarded the Friend of the Year to the Myers family. That would be the family of Julie Myers. They were the ones totally instrumental in getting the books to the farmer's market, setting up the table, taking it all down, taking the books to a bookstore in Fenton. So they certainly deserve that award. That's it.
Comments? Laura, are you accepting donations now sometimes, or
Yes,
you're still working on that?
they started on, I forgot that piece. They started on November 4th, I think from 10 to 2. And I think that is just every Wednesday right now. They're going to expand it. They're trying to make sure that they have the process in place because they're so involved now. So your best bet would be to ask at the library when they're doing it. But they are doing it on a limited basis.
That's the report for this evening. Apparently it is. Thanks, Laura.
In my report, sorry.
All right. I'll now accept a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
I'll
Second,
second.
Seconded.
I
Okay.
second.
Got it. Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any item? All right, those 6 items then are ready for approval. All those in favor, please say yes as Julie calls your name.
Jan Gaffney,
Yes.
Dan Green,
Yes.
Allison McFadden Kiesling,
Yes.
Nancy Moon,
Yes,
Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes.
Ann Rose,
Yes,
Chris Schell.
Yes.
Thank you. The consent agenda is approved. Library statistics.
Okay, this is my one of my share screen moments. Hold on, let me, whoops. It's gonna take me a second. A little bit of technical difficulty, gotta make sure it's, yeah. There we go. Okay, share screen, this one. Okay, oops. Okay, everybody
There
see it
it is.
okay?
Yes.
yes.
Tiny, but it's there. Okay, so these are the September statistics. Just want to point out a few things that are interesting on this one. So this particular statistic over here, where we're doing circulations, this is a special, Bill calls it a conversion, and essentially what it is for each day of the week, it's the number of circulations, and then he divides that by the number of patrons that came in, and you can see a per person checkout. So you can see that in September, the checkouts per visitor were anywhere from 2 to almost 5 items per person. There's one that's on Sunday was almost 6 items per person. So you can, it's just an interesting statistic to see. I just wanted to point that out. These are the October statistics. So you can see our visitors for the month. We had about 4,765 visitors, circulation of about 21,720 items, 540 information questions, 389 computer uses, 616 children's and teen program participants. So where does that stand in terms of past years and other months? You can see between September and October, we've seen a little bit of an increase in a number of visitors. We've seen a little bit of an increase in circulation. We've seen an increase in computer users, a little bit of a decrease in questions. We're holding relatively steady with wireless users. We are seeing an increase. Oops, sorry, an increase in wireless users and an increase in downloads. And then in terms of the percentages, and this one is a little bit painful to look at, is the drop between this year and last year. We have seen a 60 to 65% drop in the total number of visitors, but then again, we can only have up to 15 people in the building at a time. Circulation is down, although we're seeing that amount that it's down is not as much in October as it was in September. And the same with computer users. So we are seeing that people are using the library a little more in October than they were in September. So that's kind of where we are in terms of statistics. Still kind of painful to look at though, of course, because numbers are down. But then again, people are using the library in more remote ways. So any questions about any of that?
No, understandable.
Yeah.
Understand.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Are we ready for the library director's report?
Okay, so in terms of the director's report. I have a lot of paper tonight. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So in terms of general update, Each year, from September to December, we execute a performance review process that includes the staff director and board. After careful consideration and a long conversation with the library board president, we have determined that because this year has been so unique, causing the usual structure of goal setting and planning to be set aside for flexibility and creative solutions, we will approach this part of 2020 in an innovative way as well. We are proposing recognition instead of review, in which we celebrate each person's unique contributions to helping the library weather this storm. In the coming weeks, the supervisors and library director will individually thank each employee in writing and submit a list of 3 to 5 key contributions made by each person to be reviewed by the director and included in their personnel file. This year has been difficult and stressful for everyone, with each person dealing with their own personal challenges in tandem with a great deal of change at work. We have demonstrated great resilience and have much to be proud of, so we will take this opportunity to focus on that and to say thank you. Next item during the
That's
month of
an excellent idea. I love it.
Me
Yeah.
too.
that
I
is
love it. I
good.
didn't
I
want
do
to
too.
interrupt, but that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Kudos. Great.
Now, of course, that means the board will do the same for our director review.
I assumed as much.
One can just send their 3 comments directly to the director as her board, as your board review.
Thank
Okay.
you. During the month of October, new requirements for the Open Meetings Act were enacted through SB 1108. Many of the new requirements were things that we were already doing because they had been issued by the governor as part of her executive orders guiding virtual meetings. However, there are specific changes that have been approved that will take effect beginning January 2021 that will force us to change some of the details in the policy that our library board approved in February 2020 regarding the remote participation of library board members. The library's attorney is currently reviewing that policy and will recommend changes to be approved by the board at their December meeting to assure that it is in compliance with the new law. Until that time, the new law does require the library board members announce their location, city, state when they participate remotely, and that must be included in the meeting minutes. Other requirements such as posting the link to the virtual meeting on the front page of the website and posting the agenda online prior to the meeting are procedures we already had in place. So we're actually in pretty good shape, but there are some details in that policy that they've now decided are not going to be things that we're allowed to do. So we're all good till the end of 2020, but 2021, the law changes somewhat. In terms of financial update, the new state aid rates have been computed for the fiscal year 2021. $1 million has been added to the fiscal 2021 distribution, bringing the total amount of state aid to public libraries to $13,067,700 with a per capita breakdown of about 43 cents per person. The 2021 Public Library Annual Report application needs to be submitted between October 1st and February 1st. Payments will be processed as follows. The first 50% payment will be made after our state aid annual report is reviewed, and then the remaining 50% will be paid after July 1st of 2021, and reviews and first payments will begin after March 1st of 2021. So there's a long-winded way of saying that our state aid should be going up a little bit this year. It's directly from the state though, so that was their way of wording it. Next item, at the September meeting, the library board approved an interlocal agreement between CIDL and Oakland County to allow us to be part of the CARES Act funding that will reimburse libraries, senior centers, and community centers for unbudgeted COVID expenses from March to December of 2020, with a submission deadline of November 30th. We are continuing to compile a spreadsheet of those expenses, which include PPE, cleaning supplies, technology to allow staff to work from home and execute virtual programming, legal expenses for COVID-related policies required by MIOSHA, et cetera. We are on track to easily make the November deadline, and the amount that we have compiled so far is well below the pre-approved initial limit for reimbursement, so I'm not worried about getting completely reimbursed for everything that we've had to expend for COVID. And then lastly, in 1994, the library received a Library Services and Technology Act, LSTA grant to develop a website featuring the homes in Clarkston's historic district. Research for this project was gathered by Susan and Bill Basinger and was into an interactive web page that included a walking tour to allow people to virtually visit and learn more about each home. This was cutting edge technology at the time, and even in today's world is still a unique take on sharing the stories of the historic district's homes. Unfortunately, the platform that this website was built on is aging and is no longer flexible with modern technology such as mobile devices. A few years ago, the library board approved a project to transition this web page into a modern platform. The work on this project has been long and tedious for the local web design company, IGD Solutions. They've been building a database of the content that will allow us to control what is displayed on each page and make it easy to update details in one place that will automatically change that particular detail throughout the entire site. In addition, the map of the walking tour will be completely interactive, allowing you to quickly navigate around the district or visit properties in any order that you choose. So you literally will be able to click on the map and it'll take you where you want to go. We are finally getting to a point where we believe we will be able to launch the new site with most of the features in place and then add additional features as they are finalized. We do not have a go live date quite yet, but stay tuned, it should be very soon. So even with COVID, we got that project back online.
Bravo.
Questions or comments? If not, we should do our regular first item of business, our COVID update.
Okay, so in your packet, this is an update about various health orders, guidelines, safety protocols, et cetera. The first thing is the from Foster Swift, a summary of what is changing in the Open Meetings Act. And in my director's report, I kind of highlighted what is changing in that for you, but I wanted to include it in your packet so that you could read fully what it is that they have decided to change. MDHHS epidemic order, that particular document from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is the order that has sort of taken over where the governor's executive orders are no longer in place. And everything that is in those orders, we are still spot on, and we are doing well, making sure that we are in compliance with those. The other thing that is in your packet is the close contact quarantine guidelines and the specific quarantine guidelines for COVID exposure. And we did an entire presentation with the staff about that. So I'm going to I'm going to give you sort of the abridged version of that presentation that I gave to the staff at their at our staff meeting the other day. So let me go in and do a share screen. See if I can successfully do that a second time. All right, let's do this from slideshow from the beginning. Okay, so the first thing that we wanted to remind everybody is sort of the what it means to be confirmed positive and what is a probable case. So the Oakland County Health Division defines a confirmed case as a positive result from a PCR COVID test, and a probable case is from the positive rapid test. So for anybody who's had a test, the PCR one is the one that you wait a few days for the results of, and the rapid test is the one that's in like 15 minutes. And then, of course, we've heard lots about contact tracing, and that's a strategy for slowing the spread of the disease in which public health workers communicate with infectious people to identify their contacts, and then they follow up with those contacts to provide guidance on how to quarantine themselves and what to do if they develop symptoms. And the important point on this is to notice that it does say public health workers are the ones that do this contact tracing. The library doesn't really do contact tracing in terms of the public. We do manage our staff, and I'll talk a little bit about that more in a minute. So if a library employee has a confirmed or probable case of COVID, what are the steps that are taken? And this is from an employee and employer standpoint. The employee informs the employer of a confirmed or probable case. The employer informs employees of their possible exposure to COVID-19, meaning the others in the workplace, maintaining confidentiality. The employer instructs potentially exposed employees to quarantine for 14 days, to telework if possible, and to self-monitor for symptoms. That nice Oakland County documentation that you saw in your packet includes how to do that self-monitoring for symptoms. And then we contact Oakland County Health Department to do the contact tracing. In terms of the building itself, if it has been less than 7 days since the sick employee has been in the facility, we close off areas used for prolonged periods of time by that person. We wait for 24 hours and then we clean and disinfect. If it's a more significant area in the building, we would close in order to allow a professional company to come in and do a deep cleaning. And that would probably be a closure of 24 to 72 hours, depending on how long it would take that company to get to us. We have 2 companies on our call list that we would use to do that. And we would bring in the one that was available the soonest. If it has been 7 days or more since the sick employee used the facility, then additional cleaning and disinfection is not necessary because we've been doing that routinely. And we have that all spelled out. Arlene did a great job of doing that for us. In terms of quarantine versus isolation, so quarantine means people without symptoms who recently had close contact, which is less than 6 feet, for 15 minutes or more with someone who has COVID-19. They are to stay home 24/7 for 14 days, watch for symptoms, maintain physical distance, check and record their temperature twice a day. Family and roommates should practice physical distancing, and then they should call the health department if symptoms develop. Isolation is for people with or without symptoms of COVID, diagnosed with COVID-19, who are awaiting test results for COVID-19. So they are to stay home, stay in a separate room from other household members, use a separate bathroom if possible, avoid sharing personal items, wear a mask, and they can stop isolation when the following conditions have been met. People with symptoms at least 10 days after symptoms began and 24 hours after no fever without fever reducing medications. And people without symptoms 10 days after the first positive diagnosis. And if symptoms develop, then they switch to that other bullet in terms of symptoms. So who's a close contact? Someone who has had the following contact with a COVID-19 positive individual within 6 feet for a total of 15 minutes or more. Provides care at home for someone who is sick with COVID-19. Direct physical contact with that person, either hugged or kissed them. Shared eating or drinking utensils, sneezed, coughed, or came in contact with the person's respiratory droplets. And they need to stay home and monitor health, stay home for 14 days after the last contact. That handout that's in your packet explains how to count those 14 days. And then that when to start and end quarantine, as we just discussed. Even after you test negative for COVID-19 or feel healthy, continue to stay home since symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure. So I'm not going to go into this part as much in depth, but there's an explanation in terms of how to monitor your health when you are in quarantine. And of course, the review of the regular good health habits, which we've been talking about regularly in terms of washing your hands and covering your mouth, avoiding close contact, not sharing utensils. One of the other things we talked about with the staff is the CDC's coronavirus self-checker. This is actually an online tool to help you determine if the symptoms that you have are something to be concerned about, or if you should just continue to monitor those symptoms. And then where to get tested. The Michigan State website has a very helpful link to finding test sites. The top part of this slide shows you what the site looks like. The bottom part is the actual search box where you can put in your zip code, and then you can limit it to 5, 10, 15, or 20, 25 miles. And you can even check off filtering to, if you're looking specifically for a no-cost test, if you're looking for a site that tests people without symptoms, if you're looking for a site that will test if you don't have a doctor's order, and also for testing of uninsured individuals. And then there's some specifics about how to care for someone who is in isolation, obviously protecting your own health first, monitoring the patient's health, isolating that patient, cleaning and disinfecting frequently, and then taking precautions. This particular part of the handout is really helpful because it does talk about wearing gloves, wearing a face mask, and then disposing of the gloves first, washing your hands, then disposing of the face mask and washing your hands again. So really good, helpful information that we covered at that meeting on Friday. And then once again, that when to end isolation is that 10 days that we discussed earlier. Any questions about any of this?
Very thorough.
Yes.
It's great. Thank you.
If we are ready then to move to number 2, our third quarter financial review.
All right. I am just a wealth of screen sharing tonight. Let's bring this one up. Hold on just a second. What's going on my screen here?
There are lots of pictures on this one too. Yeah.
All right, so this is this one. Whoops. Okay, this is in your packet. Let me start with the. Okay, so I'm starting with the revenues coming in. Obviously, book fines are down significantly because we are not charging fines due to the quarantining. E-rate has not come in yet, but there isn't really anything else in here that we're particularly concerned about. The money that's coming in, the revenues all came in earlier in the year. The penal fine money has come in. I believe that it was not. Oh, nope, it is there. The penal fine money is listed there as that $61,247. This number here is showing that it is an amount more than what we had budgeted. So $6,247 more than what we expected it to be. We budgeted low. So I'm not particularly concerned with where we are in terms of revenues at this point. You'll notice in full-time wages, this column B is when you divide out the money evenly through the year, where we should be, and then column C is where we actually are. So in terms of the numbers, we are actually running below budget in full-time wages. We are running below budget in part-time wages, so we're in good shape there. Most of our line items were actually in pretty good shape. One of the ones that I'm watching is the retirement line here. It's really close. We're under, but not by much. So we'll be watching that one closely to make sure we have enough to cover that. We might have to make a slight budget adjustment. The other one we're watching closely that I'm going to take a look at is this workers' comp. I think that we have paid out the last, that premium comes in 4 pieces. It's not a monthly thing. I just want to make sure that the 4th premium has posted to make sure that we're not going over. I don't think we are. I think it did post, but I just wanted to double check that and make sure that we are not going over budget on that one. And then going on to sheet 2. Just a couple of things here. The audit, and there's only $95 left there, but the audit is all paid for, so we're good in that regard. The telephone bill down here, we're a little over budget in this one, and I believe that is actually because we had to put in an extra line that we did not know that we were going to need. So I'm going to need to do a little research on that one. I think we may need to make a budget adjustment for that, but I'm not worried about it yet. We'll do that with our final budget adjustments of the year. And then I'm going to hop down to 975, which is the building budget. Obviously, if we were spending it evenly throughout the year, there's this, it would have been 38,000. We've only spent about 8,000. There's quite a lot there. There's 43,000 remaining. One of the things that's on your board packet this evening is the fire suppression system. And I had put in the fire suppression system as a possible fund balance transfer. The reason there's so much money in that building line item is because we had anticipated that we might remodel the meeting room this year. What I would suggest that we do instead of remodeling the meeting room, since we're getting this close to the end of the year, and that has not been a project that was really conducive based on the way we were using the room and getting a company in to do that work, is to spend that money on the fire suppression system this year. We had anticipated making this fire suppression repairs for next year. And then using the money that we had budgeted for fire suppression for next year to work on the meeting room. So I would just propose a swap there. So when we get to that line item, we may not need to make a budget adjustment because there is money in that line that I feel we could use for that purpose. Any questions about any of that?
Considering what we've been
Oh. Really, we can't hear you.
Considering what we've been through, that looks pretty
Yeah.
good.
We're in pretty good shape. The one thing that I will remind you of is that, so how we wrap up the end of the year, we have our accountant do a year-to-date as of November 30th of everything that we've spent. And then at your December board meeting, we make final budget adjustments for the year. So that's when we go through and make sure that if there are 12 invoices for a particular expense, that we have accounted for all 12 of them and that there's enough money left in the budget to pay for that 12th one if it hasn't come yet. So that's the kind of thing that we'll be doing in the December meeting. So I don't really anticipate that we need to make any budget adjustments tonight. And we're actually in pretty good shape, I think. So I don't think we're going to be making a ton of budget adjustments next month. We might shift a few things around, but I don't think it'll be an extensive list. So.
Right, any questions, comments? If not, let's move to number 3. Review of the proposal for the fire suppression upgrade.
Okay. I'm hoping someday we can stop talking about this, but apparently tonight's not it. Okay, so over the past few years, we've had continuing issues with the library's aging fire suppression system that was originally installed when the building was built in 1992. A basic assessment from one of the companies that has done repairs pointed out issues with the way the pipes are pitched when originally installed to prevent the system from draining properly when it arms and allows small pools of water in the pipes to cause corrosion and small leaks. Following the guidance of the Independence Township Fire Marshal, we recently paid a professional survey of the system. From that survey included in the packet, a proposal was submitted to make the necessary repairs. The work to replace pipes, repitch the system, and adjust drainage is $11,940. While this work could be planned for next year, arranging to do this work while the library is less occupied due to COVID restrictions would be more efficient. In addition, doing this work now in order to have the system in its best possible working order, should there be another stay-at-home order, would be prudent to assure that the building is well protected if the library could potentially be unoccupied for some period of time. I did say in my notes that this is not a budgeted item, but has been an ongoing issue that needs to be addressed, and fund balance could be used. But as I just said in our last line item, I think probably the best thing to do would be just to use that money that's already in that 975 line and then worry about the meeting room for next year. So we do want to take a few minutes to show you a little bit about what this survey says, just because I'm on a screen sharing roll tonight. Let's do one more screen share. So I have the compiled photos that are in your packet. And that's what I'm going to screen share. And then I have some notes here to go over just to, so really to make this sort of a nutshell version, I believe Jim D'Angelo is the one who prepared this report for us from Absolute Fire Protection. And he's provided a 3-page report that basically highlights about a half a dozen things we ought to have done. So the first thing, this first image, this image, and this image, and actually this third image right here, what we're looking at is the control valves that are in our mechanical room. And he says this upper control valve is leaking, and that's what you're seeing here. And we're getting corrosion. And essentially, he says it's a nuisance item and a simple repair for which they have provided pricing to take care of that. In other words, it's something that we should just get taken care of since they're going to be in the building making changes to the system anyway. So image number 4, this image right here, shows the vertical riser And this is a dry pipe valve and a horizontal main pipe exiting the room. So this is essentially, we're still in this same room. This is up near the ceiling, so we're looking up. And essentially what he's saying is that this pipe right here isn't pitched properly, and it's not allowing the water to roll downhill like it should, so that gravity would drain the system properly, and that we're getting corrosion under here. And so he's saying that failure of this pipe in this area is imminent and could cause noticeable inconvenience. I'm looking at the size of the pipe and where it's located, and I would call it maybe more than notable inconvenience, but he has provided pricing for that as well. Okay, so then just outside of this room, he's calling this I believe he's calling this a staff room, but essentially what this is our snack room where our vending machines are. And so the door is right here, and that piping system that we were looking for is on the other side of this wall. So basically what he's done is he's put in a ladder, moved the ceiling tile, and if you look up into this ceiling, I believe this is what you're seeing. So this is essentially what's above the ceiling in the room we were just in, that little tight space where that big system of pipes is. And he's basically saying that there's some branching pipe in here. It's not necessarily imminent, but it is in need of repair. And since they're already in the building, he has put that pricing in to do those repairs as well. In photo 8 and 9, so these are this great big pipe. These are the main pipes that are in the ceiling above the circulation desk. So above the circulation office and above the self-check stations. If that helps you kind of orient yourselves to where this is. This is another section that he's saying should be replaced, and he's put pricing in for that. 9 and 10, he's showing just the general condition of what's in above the ceiling and the required pitch. And what he's saying in this particular section is all these little pipes are not pitched properly. In other words, they don't slope in the direction they need to in order to get the water to drain. And essentially what he's saying is it's going to be really expensive to redo all of this. And he's recommending that we not do that. It's not proposed. What he is recommending that we'll see in one of the later items is to redo the drain on the south end of the building. So that repitching that he's already said that we should do is on the north side of the building, and then the other part is on the south side. So we just put this in so that you can kind of get a general idea that none of these tiny little pipes are pitched properly.
Were they ever pitched properly or and have like shifted or just a bad installation to begin with?
They were never pitched properly. And one of the things that he's saying in this particular situation, and I'm trying to see which image. One of the later images, he basically is saying that because of the ductwork, I think it's this image. Let me just look really quickly, make sure I'm showing you the right one. Yep, okay. So it's this picture right here, this big pipe. You see all this HVAC ductwork right here? Mm-hmm. All of these are the things that are preventing this pipe from being pitched properly.
Okay.
So essentially they made the best of a bad situation.
Okay.
When they put in that pipe, because of the ductwork and the way it was laid in, the pipe couldn't be pitched properly. And so he's saying it's not possible without redoing a lot of stuff that's above the ceiling at great expense. And so he's proposing, repitching the far end and then redoing the drain as the best case scenario, and a lot less expensive than basically taking out every ceiling tile in the building and trying to completely replace the system, which would be prohibitive to the point where I don't even think they would be willing to do that. Okay, so hopping down a little bit further to 13 and 14. These are the pipes that are above the circulation desk. You can even see that he left the ceiling tile, pulled the ceiling tile away, and you can even see in this one picture just below, there's the circulation desk, there's the circulation office, and above this pipe. we've had these pipes replaced multiple times because the draining is not allowing them to get the water, and the condensation is a problem. So he's saying that once again, he would propose, because I think they did one side of the pipe and not the other. He is proposing replacing this whole section, including this intersection, and shifting it, and hoping that when we redo the pitch and also the drainage on the other end, that should help solve some of this, hopefully, at least for the foreseeable future. And then last but not least, down here at the bottom, this is in the janitor's closet. The janitor's closet is off of the hallway that goes into the community meeting room, which is our big meeting room. This piping system here is that drainage that he was talking about, and he's talking about rebuilding that drain system in order to improve the way in which the building drains, so that if it does ever arm, which it does from time to time, fortunately, knock on wood, not because it needs to, but because it occasionally just does. And it does, and also when they're testing it, they arm it. So once a year they do test it, and then when they drain it, it doesn't always drain as it should because the pipes are not, don't have enough of a slope. This particular piece he's saying is the most important alteration to the system, and it is the part that he feels will assist in extending the life of the system without it being prohibitively expensive.
How long does he think this will prolong the life of the system?
He's not really giving an estimate, but I think he's giving us the best case scenario in terms of making these particular repairs. So I would assume that if we can get the system so that it is draining properly, because they'll do those repairs, they'll arm it, then they'll disarm it, it will drain properly. Hopefully, then we will be preventing those leaks. And then we will also, when they arm it once a year and then drain it once a year, we won't be seeing this corrosion to the level that we've been seeing it. So.
Will you have to close the library to do this, Julie?
Probably not. We'll have to talk to them about that in terms of, they've been, in the past, they've been really good about being able to do that sort of work. It's its own enclosed system. So it's not like when they do plumbing work where they have to turn off the water to the building.
No. Mm-hmm.
It's its own independent system. Other than the fact that it tends to be noisy. So
Okay.
sometimes they can do it early in the morning. I'll have to talk to him about the amount of time he thinks it would take.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a possibility that we would be able to, sometimes they're willing to do it at a time when it falls into closures that we would be doing otherwise. So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
we'll have to negotiate that out with him.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
At this point, I don't know what their outlying time is, how far out they would be scheduling something like this.
It's been in that situation now almost 30 years, so one might expect some difficulties with water being involved and all.
Exactly. One of the repairmen who came in to do a repair a year or so ago said, well, the building is 30 years old. Can't you just sell it?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Yeah,
That's not really the solution I'm looking for.
when you're looking
Sell
at
it and start over somewhere else.
Sell it and start
Yeah.
yeah, that was his suggestion.
yeah, I just
Find
want
the parking lot.
But all the corrosion, when you start playing around with that, can other things be damaged while he's trying to get that apart or worked on, or
I suppose that's possible. What the nice thing that they have found, well, that we've found, is that they are pretty good about being able to isolate certain sections of the
Good.
pipes.
Okay.
So essentially what they do is they measure out what it is that they want to replace,
Okay.
and they bring equipment and they cut it outside, and then they bring it in the building, and then they cut it out
Oh,
and
okay,
they put the new pieces back
Okay.
in. So
Yeah.
they're replacing it in sections. It is a little bit of a
Yeah.
noisy undertaking. So
okay.
it depends on whether they want to do all of this work all at once. That's the thing I haven't had a chance to talk to him about. He gave us the proposal, you know, once we have approval from the board that this is the direction you want to go, then I'll go in and negotiate with him more specifically about how long it will take, whether they're going to do it all at once or whether they want to do it in pieces. You know, they might want to come in and just do the drain and whatever. If they can do it in sections, you know, where they do the repitching,
Mhm.
the drain may be able to be done in an afternoon, whereas the repitching may be something that they need
Yeah.
to do all the pipe repair, and we might have to close for a day in order to
Yeah.
do that, but we
Okay.
have to negotiate that out with them.
Okay, so what do we need tonight?
So tonight I need an approval that this is the direction that you would like to go. If it's not the direction that you would like to go, then we should probably have a conversation about what direction you would like to go. In terms of funding it, as I said, the money is available in that 975 line, which is the building line, because we are not doing the meeting room. That money is available to use. If we don't do the meeting room and if you move the money from fund balance, something's going to just shift back to fund balance at the end of the year.
Actually wouldn't need to transfer any monies.
No, I didn't realize how much was sitting in that line when I wrote this proposal. And then when I looked at what the accountant sent, I was like, oh, that it just was an oversight on my part, because I was thinking I was going to take it out of 931 and whatever. And then when I looked, I was like, wait, we're not doing the meeting room this year. So we do have the money
Yeah,
sitting there
good.
available. So
Actually, we just need to approve the proposal
Right.
from Absolute Fire Protection.
yep.
And to me, it makes sense to do this. There's no point in trying to do the meeting room
Right,
now,
right.
you know, but there's just no point in it. We can worry about that next year when
Yeah.
things get to something a little closer to normal.
Mhm.
So, and we've always had problems with the fire suppression system.
Mhm.
It's not something you want to have completely fail.
Mm.
So I think it's a good idea to do it
Oh, yeah.
now.
Definitely.
The visual
Thank you.
picture helps.
Yeah, I agree with Jan. I think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
I will accept a motion.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal from Absolute Fire Protection as presented, and we don't need the budget adjustment, so that's all. We'll just approve the proposal as presented.
Second.
A second.
You might want to just mention in your motion that it's okay for me to use that money that's in 975 that was intended for the meeting room, so that it's clear in the minutes.
Just make that a part of my motion, then that's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
All right, let's see if we have this correct now. It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposal from Absolute Fire Protection as presented, and to utilize funds previously allocated for the redo of our meeting room to a later date.
Perfect.
Comments or questions? If not, let's call the roll.
Jan Gaffney,
Yes.
Dan Green,
Yes,
Allison McFadden Kiesling,
Yes.
Nancy Moon,
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes.
Ann Rose,
Yes,
and Chris Schall.
Yes,
Okay, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Let us move to number 4. Review of
Okay.
proposal for one-time vacation payout.
All right. So it is library policy that vacation time that is not used by the end of the year is forfeited. Up to 24 hours of unused sick time may be rolled over into the following year. When the library closed due to the pandemic, our building was not available to the public, but we did not stop working. We've spent this year reinventing the way that we offer library services and creating new ways to serve our community. Evolving safety guidelines, extensive training requirements, crucial meetings regarding COVID protocols, development and documentation of new procedures, and shifting schedules have created a workload for some of our staff that has made it difficult to take time off this year. Acquiring information and documentation needed for various projects has become more difficult and time consuming, but deadlines to complete those projects has not changed. The work still needs to get done. In addition, troubleshooting new services and procedures has called some back on the clock on a vacation day, turning it back into a work day. The ability to work from home allowed for a breather, but a number of our employees, for example, leadership, IT, and custodial were classified as essential and have a significant accumulation of vacation hours remaining that they will not be able to use by the end of the year without creating a significant burden on others and preventing critical tasks from being completed. These hours would be subject to forfeiture under the current policy. So for these reasons, I'm proposing a one-time buyout of vacation time for 2020 of up to 40 hours to be paid at each employee's regular wage in January during the pay period in which the sick time hours roll over, and that's usually the second pay period in January. I've included a spreadsheet of the current vacation and sick time balances of each employee. Some of these hours will get used by the end of the year during the holiday season, but for those employees that have a lot of hours remaining, the forfeiture will not be so steep if some of those hours can be reimbursed. In addition, waiting until late in the year to propose this measure prevented people who were able to make time to be off from foregoing those days in preference of a buyout later on. So in the 2021 budget, there is an undesignated revenue amount of $42,298, and a budget adjustment could be made from that fund to cover this expense, which would not exceed $9,400. Because that's, if we were to do it today, which obviously wouldn't because the year's not over yet, but the total would be $9,400. Anyway, we could do that when it is known. So my goal would be to have people take as much of their vacation between now and the end of the year as they can. But we are seeing some people that that's going to be very difficult to do. So.
Would be here, that would not be good.
Yeah.
Okay, comments or questions? It has been an odd year.
Yes.
Yes, it has.
It has.
Normally, I would not think that this was the best idea, but you can't penalize people for,
Right.
stepping up and
Right.
and running with the
Mhm.
game ball when the game keeps changing on them. So
Yeah.
I think we,
Motion.
yeah. You want me to make this motion? I can make this motion. Okay, I move that we approve a one-time buyout of up to 40 unused 2020 vacation hours at each employee's regular wage to be paid in January 2021 when the sick time rollover occurs.
I second.
Nancy,
I've
now
got
we're-
that, Nicole. It's been moved and seconded to approve a one-time buyout of up to 40 unused 2020 vacation hours at each employee's regular wage to be paid in January 2021 when the sick time rollover occurs. Any other comments or questions? If not, all those in favor, please reply to roll call.
Jan Gaffney,
Yes.
Dan Green,
Yes,
Allison McFadden Keesling,
Yes.
Nancy Moon,
Yes,
Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes.
Ann Rose,
Yes,
and Chris Schall.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion has been approved. As we move to the last item on the agenda for tonight, the approval of MERS defined contribution addendum and resolution establishing authorized signatories.
This one is a whole lot of paperwork for something that we're not actually doing anything. We're really just updating paperwork. Okay, so on August 1st, 2012, the Independence Township Library reestablished as the Clarkston Independence District Library. On December 31st of 2012, the employees were terminated by the Charter Township of Independence and hired by the Clarkston Independence District Library. At that time, the library established the same retirement benefits through MERS that the township had offered those employees and all future full-time employees. The policy defining those benefits is included in the packet. MERS is in the process of updating paperwork and it has asked the library board to review and approve a defined contribution plan adoption agreement addendum. This document will not change anything regarding the plan that was created and originally adopted, but provides updated paperwork and cleans up records in their system. This is something that MERS is systematically doing with all of their municipalities. In addition, MERS is recommending that the library board approve a resolution establishing authorized signatories that can handle paperwork on behalf of the library. This prevents the board from having to vote and file approved minutes designating an authorized signatory each time paperwork needs to be updated, such as this addendum in tonight's packet. The board would approve the addendum and the signatory could execute the paperwork. This is done as an authorized official by position. And MERS recommends that this be the library director. Additional authorized officials could be added, such as library board president and or library board treasurer if the board would like to do so. And part of the reason they're wanting these signatories is because this paperwork is being signed via DocuSign because of COVID. And so that's why why they picked right now to update paperwork, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a good project for their folks working from home. But they are basically just cleaning up paperwork.
Okay, I just have an observation to make about all of that. If they're requiring essentially multiple copies of the same document to be filed, no wonder their paperwork is a mess. Just saying.
It is. He said it to me, and he said, so I'm sending you 24 pages, but essentially the long and short of it is that there's a 6-page document for each individual piece of the plan. And so essentially our defined contribution plan is during year 1, your contributions are a certain amount. Right. Then for 2, 3, and 4, the percentages change. And then for year 5, the percentage changes.
That, but no wonder they have paperwork issues.
Yes, they have paperwork coming out their ears. So yeah, so I did forewarn you via email that's what that paperwork is all about.
So I glanced through the first one and ignored the rest of them.
Well, I didn't want you to think I'd gone crazy and put the same form in 4 times because there's only one teeny tiny little bit of text that's different on each form. So not on each page, on each form.
But none of this changes any part of the plan. It's just they're updating their paperwork and that's okay.
Yep. The only thing that would be different is if you decide to go ahead and designate via resolution that signatory. If you don't want to designate a signatory, then you need to designate who signs tonight, and then in any future conversation about stuff, you would need to designate a signatory. So that's why they suggested that you designate a signatory by position. And that you might, he definitely said you probably want the library director to do it because I'm the one who's physically in the building.
Right.
Essentially, they emailed me this stuff.
Well,
I still wouldn't have the authority to sign it without your approval. It just means that when you approve it, you wouldn't need to say who's it.
Well, shouldn't the board president also be a
Absolutely.
signatory?
Yep, you absolutely can do that. And that's fine as well.
That feels like a good idea to me too, and then it kind of covers everybody and.
I think it's wise because if you ever were at a situation where you were between directors, if you were in the hiring process and needed something signed, then you wouldn't have to vote to who was going to sign it. So yeah, I definitely think that's a good plan. So not that the director's going anywhere.
Well, I don't think the president is either.
But the whole point is to put this in place going forward for the long term, and then maybe they'll leave us alone. We haven't done paperwork on this for 7 years. We put this in place in 2013, so maybe they'll leave us alone for 7 years if we've got all our paperwork in order in terms of updating paper. So,
all right, so let's do this in 2 motions. Let's have one for approving the defined contribution and the resolution establishing authorized signatories. Do we need 2 or is 1 enough?
technically they want you to do 2.
Okay.
They want you to do 1 for approving the defined contribution plan adoption agreement addendum. And then they wanted to do a separate one. They did put a resolution in the packet, but I think what we want to do is update that resolution to state that you would also like the library board president on there as well, which is no big deal to change.
Authorized signatory.
Because there's in the, on the last page of that resolution, there's a place where it says library director and then optional additional job positions. Under number 2, we can put library board president. We can put in library board treasurer as well if you want. Just let me know what you'd like in that spot.
What do you think, Jan?
Well, I don't have a problem with it. I suppose
Yeah.
the more the merrier.
Yeah, I'm
that
okay with
if
that too.
For some
I-
reason, we didn't have a director and the president was out of town, there still would be one more person.
Yeah.
Right. I like
agree.
that idea, just
Yeah.
that you have an additional person necessary.
Right, in case there's something urgent that comes up, it's,
I'll accept a motion. Motion number 1.
Okay, I move that we approve the defined contribution plan adoption agreement addendum as presented.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, Jan Gaffney,
Yes.
Dan Green,
Yes.
Allison McFadden Keesling,
Yes.
Nancy Moon,
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes.
Ann Rose,
Yes.
and Chris Schell.
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved. Now I'll accept a motion about signatories.
I'll try it. To approve the resolution establishing authorized signatories for MERS contracts and service credit purchase approvals with the inclusion of the library board president and treasurer. Right?
Yes. I second it.
Second, all right. All right, so we have a motion to approve the resolution establishing authorized signatories for MERS contracts and service credit purchase approvals to include the director, the board president, the board treasurer. Okay, any comments or questions? If not, please call the roll.
Dan Gaffney,
Yes.
Dan Green,
Yes.
Allison McFadden Keesling,
Yes.
Nancy Moon,
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes.
Ann Rose,
Yes.
and Chris Schell.
Yes.
Motion is passed. Both motions are passed. Excellent. Now, are there any other comments or questions for this evening? If not, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, please say yes as your name is called.
Jan Gaffney,
Yes.
Dan Green,
Yes.
Allison McFadden Keesling,
Yes.
Nancy Moon,
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy. We didn't hear you, Marilyn, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Ann Rose
Yes.
and Chris Schell.
Yes.
Approved. The meeting is adjourned at 7:34. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good work tonight.